The rain was hammering against the floor-to-ceiling glass of my corner office, distorting the city lights of downtown Chicago into blurry streaks of gold and red. It was 10:45 p.m. on a Tuesday. Everyone else at the firm had gone home hours ago, but I was still there, buried under a mountain of case files, nursing a cold cup of coffee. I was a senior partner at 32, known for being ruthless, clinical, and untouchable. I thought I had seen everything. I thought I knew what bad looked like. But when the elevator dinged in the hallway, echoing through the empty floor, I felt a strange shiver crawl up my spine. I wasn't expecting anyone. I watched the frosted glass door, my hand instinctively moving toward the panic button under my desk. The handle turned slowly. The door pushed open, and my heart stopped. Standing there, dripping wet, wearing a trench coat that was 3 sizes too big and trembling so hard I could see it from across the room, was a woman who looked exactly like me. It was Emily, my identical twin sister. We hadn't spoken in 2 years, not since she married Mark, the golden boy of the Sterling real estate dynasty. Mark, with his perfect teeth, his charity galas, and his controlling hand that had slowly, methodically cut Emily off from me, our parents, and her friends. "Em?" I whispered, standing up. She didn't answer. She just took a step forward and collapsed. I vaulted over my desk, ignoring the coffee that spilled onto a $1,000 rug, and caught her before she hit the floor. Her skin was ice cold. She whimpered when I touched her arm. I pulled back the oversized coat, and the scream died in my throat, replaced by a cold, hard rage that I had never felt before. Her arm was a kaleidoscope of purple and black bruises. There were finger marks on her neck, faint, yellowing old ones mixed with fresh, angry red ones. Her lip was split. But it was her eyes that scared me the most. They were hollow, vacant, the eyes of an animal that had forgotten what it meant to be safe. "Don't tell him," she rasped, grabbing my lapel with surprising strength. "Sarah, please. If he knows I'm here, he'll kill Leo. He promised." Leo, my 5-year-old nephew. I held her tight, rocking her as she sobbed into my silk blouse. In that moment, the lawyer in me died, and the sister woke up. I looked at the rain battering the window and made a silent vow. Mark Sterling wasn't going to get a divorce. He wasn't going to get a settlement. He was going to get destroyed. If you've ever felt the burning desire to protect someone you love at all costs, or if you believe that abusers deserve to face the harshest justice imaginable, please take a second to like this video and subscribe. It helps us share these stories with the people who need to hear them the most. Now, let me tell you how I executed the most dangerous plan of my life. I locked the office door and pulled the blinds. I got the first aid kit from the break room and cleaned Emily's cuts. As I dabbed antiseptic on her cheek, she started to talk. It came out in fragments, broken by jagged breaths. It started with small things, checking her phone, criticizing her clothes. Then, the isolation. He moved them to the Sterling family estate, a sprawling mansion an hour outside the city, surrounded by high walls and security gates. Then came the physical violence, a shove, a slap. And tonight he had thrown her down the stairs because she forgot to pick up his dry cleaning. "Why didn't you call the police?" I asked gently. "He owns the police in that town, Sarah," she whispered, "and he has cameras everywhere. Inside the house, listening devices. He told me if I ever tried to leave, he'd paint me as unstable. He's been gaslighting me for months, switching my medication, telling everyone I'm having episodes. If I leave, he gets full custody of Leo. He told me he put Leo in a boarding school in Switzerland, and I'd never see him again." She showed me her phone. She had managed to record one audio clip months ago, but she was terrified to use it. It wasn't enough. In the eyes of the law, without irrefutable proof of his violence and his instability, it would be a he said, she said battle, and Mark had the best lawyers money could buy. "Where is Leo now?" I asked. "Camp," she said. "He's at a sleepaway camp for 3 more days. Mark is in New York for business until tomorrow night. I have 24 hours before he comes back." She looked at me, her eyes pleading. "I can't go back, Sarah. I'd rather die." "You are not going back," I said, my voice steel. "But if I'm not there when he gets home, he'll come for you. He'll find us." I looked at her, really looked at her. Despite the bruises and the weight loss, we were still mirror images. Same high cheekbones, same emerald eyes, same height. The only difference was the hair. Mine was a sharp, angled bob, hers was long and wavy, and the terrifying vulnerability in her posture. A plan formed in my mind. It was insane. It was illegal. It was dangerous. And it was the only way to save her and Leo. "You're right," I said. "Emily Sterling has to be there when Mark gets home." She looked confused. "What?" "I'm going to take your place." She stared at me. "No, Sarah, no, he's a monster." "I deal with monsters in suits every day," I said, standing up. "But I need to know everything. His schedule, his passwords, his habits, what he eats for breakfast, how he likes his coffee. I need to know where the cameras are. I need to know everything." We spent the next 6 hours in a frenzy. I called my private investigator, a man named Jack who I trusted with my life, and had him drive to the office. We smuggled Emily out the freight elevator and into his car. He took her to a safe house, a cabin I owned off the books in Wisconsin. She would be safe there. Then I went to work. I cut my hair. I dyed it a shade lighter to match hers. I used professional theatrical makeup, something I picked up from a client in the entertainment industry, to replicate the bruising on my own face and arms. I studied the way she walked, the way she held her shoulders hunched forward in defeat. I had to unlearn my confidence. I had to learn to be invisible. By 5 a.m., I looked in the mirror, and I didn't see Sarah the power lawyer. I saw Emily the victim. It broke my heart, but it fueled my fire. I drove Emily's car back to the estate. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel, not from fear, but from adrenaline. I used the gate code she gave me. The iron gates swung open, and I drove up the long, winding driveway to the house that looked more like a fortress than a home. Entering that house was like walking into a mausoleum. It was cold, pristine, and silent. I spotted the cameras immediately, small, blinking red lights in the corners of the crown molding. I hunched my shoulders, keeping my head down, playing the part for the lens. For the first 12 hours, I was alone. I used the time to sweep the house. Emily was right. It was a prison. I found the server room in the basement, locked, naturally. I couldn't hack it yet without alerting Mark. I went into his office. It was spotless. But I found a safe behind a painting. I didn't have the combination, and Emily didn't know it. I spent the day practicing. I practiced flinching when the floorboards creaked. I practiced the soft, submissive tone Emily used. At 7 p.m., the front door opened. "Emily," Mark's voice boomed through the hallway. "I'm home." My stomach turned over. I walked into the foyer, keeping my eyes on the floor. "Hello, Mark," I said softly. He walked over to me. He smelled of expensive scotch and another woman's perfume. He grabbed my chin, forcing me to look up. His eyes scanned my face, looking at the makeup bruises. "You look terrible," he sneered. "Did you ice it like I told you?" "Yes," I lied. "Good. We have the charity gala on Friday. You better cover that up properly. I don't want people thinking you're clumsy again." He dropped my chin and walked past me into the kitchen. "Make me a drink, and don't mess it up this time." I went to the kitchen. My hand hovered over the heavy crystal decanter. I wanted to smash it over his head right then and there. But I couldn't. I needed him to incriminate himself. I needed him to make a mistake. For the next 2 days, I lived in hell. Mark was psychological torture personified. He would move things and claim I lost them. He would wake me up at 3 a.m. by blasting music, then claim the house was silent and I was hearing things. He constantly threatened to call Dr. Arrington, a psychiatrist on his payroll, to have me committed. "You're losing it, Em," he'd say, smiling over his morning coffee. "Maybe it's time for a little vacation at the facility, for Leo's sake." Every time he mentioned Leo, I had to bite the inside of my cheek until I tasted blood to keep from screaming. But I was gathering intel. I noticed he kept a small key on his watch chain. I noticed he got nervous whenever I went near the mahogany desk in the library. On Thursday, his mother, Eleanor, came over. If Mark was the monster, Eleanor was the creator. She was a cold, sharp woman who looked at me like I was a stain on her carpet. "You're letting yourself go, dear," she said, sipping tea while I stood. I wasn't allowed to sit unless invited. "Mark works so hard. The least you can do is look presentable." "I'm trying, Eleanor," I said, making my voice tremble. "Try harder. If you embarrass this family, we will take that boy away from you so fast your head will spin. You know we have the judges in our pocket." I was wearing a wire, a tiny, high-fidelity recorder taped to the underside of my bra. I got that on tape. Strike one. The turning point came on Friday morning. Mark was in the shower. He had left his watch on the nightstand. I grabbed the small key. I ran to the library, my heart pounding against my ribs like a sledgehammer. I unlocked the top drawer of his desk. Inside, there wasn't just cash. There were files, medical records, falsified ones, stating that Emily was schizophrenic. And there was a burner phone. I scrolled through the texts on the burner phone. It was worse than I thought. He was paying off a judge. He was arranging money laundering transfers through his real estate firm. And there were texts to a hitman. "If she tries to take the kid, make it look like an accident. Car crash preferred." I took photos of everything with a micro camera disguised as a button on my blouse. I put everything back exactly as I found it. I had enough to bury him for fraud and conspiracy, but I needed him to go down for the abuse. I needed the world to see the monster so he could never touch Emily or Leo again. I put the key back on the nightstand just as the water turned off. That night was the gala. Mark made me wear a backless dress. I had to apply thick concealer to the bruises on my arms. He paraded me around the ballroom, his hand gripping my biceps so hard I knew there would be real bruises there tomorrow. "Smile," he hissed in my ear as we posed for photos. "You look miserable. Don't ruin this for me." "I want a divorce, Mark," I whispered. I felt his body go rigid. We were in the middle of a crowded room, surrounded by Chicago's elite. He couldn't hit me here. "What did you say?" "I said I want a divorce, and I want full custody of Leo." He squeezed my arm until I gasped. "We'll discuss this at home." The ride home was silent, deadly silent. When we pulled into the garage, the heavy metal door slid shut, sealing us in. Mark got out of the car and dragged me out by my hair. "You think you can embarrass me?" he screamed, his face contorted into a mask of pure hate. "You think you can leave me?" He threw me into the kitchen. I hit the island, hard. This time, the pain was real. "I'm not afraid of you anymore," I said, standing up. I positioned myself directly in front of the hidden camera in the kitchen smoke detector, the one he had installed to spy on Emily. "You should be," he laughed, unbuckling his belt. "I'm going to make sure you never walk again, and then I'm going to call the police and tell them you attacked me. Look at you, you're hysterical." He came at me. Now Emily would have cowered. Emily would have begged. I didn't. When he swung the belt, I caught it. The look of shock on his face was worth every second of fear I had felt. "What the?" I yanked the belt from his hand and tossed it aside. "You like hitting women, Mark? Let's see how you do against someone who hits back." He lunged at me, aiming a punch at my face. I sidestepped, using a Krav Maga move I'd practiced for years in self-defense classes. I used his momentum against him, shoving him face first into the cabinets. He roared in anger, turning around with a kitchen knife he grabbed from the counter. "I'm going to kill you." "Do it!" I screamed. "Do it, Mark! Let everyone see who you really are." He charged. I didn't fight him this time. I needed the final piece of evidence. I let him tackle me. I let him pin me to the ground. I felt the cold blade against my throat. "Say goodbye, Emily," he hissed. "I'm not Emily," I whispered. He froze. "What?" "I'm Sarah." At that exact moment, the kitchen door burst open. "Police! Drop the weapon!" Mark's head snapped up. 10 officers, led by my contact, Detective Miller, poured into the room with guns drawn. My private investigator, Jack, was right behind them, holding a laptop that was live streaming the feed from Mark's own security cameras directly to a secure cloud server and to the police station. Mark scrambled back, dropping the knife. "She attacked me. She's crazy. She's my wife. She's off her meds." Detective Miller stepped forward, handcuffs clicking. "We saw everything, Mr. Sterling, and we have the files from your safe. You're under arrest for attempted murder, money laundering, and conspiracy." I stood up, adjusting my dress. I wiped a smudge of blood from my lip, real blood this time. Mark looked at me, then at the police, then back at me. "Sarah?" he whispered, his face draining of color. "Emily is safe," I said, my voice cold and steady, "and you are never going to see her or Leo ever again." As they dragged him out in handcuffs, kicking and screaming threats about his lawyers and his mother, I walked out to the front porch. The rain had stopped. The air smelled like ozone and wet pavement. I pulled the wig off and shook out my hair. The legal battle that followed was the media trial of the century. With the video footage of him holding a knife to my throat, the audio recordings of his mother threatening to take the child, and the financial documents I found, the Sterling dynasty crumbled. Eleanor was indicted for conspiracy and child endangerment. Mark was denied bail. 2 weeks later, I drove to the cabin in Wisconsin. Leo was there, playing in the leaves. Emily was sitting on the porch, painting. She looked different. The bruises were fading. There was a light in her eyes that hadn't been there before. When she saw me, she ran down the steps and hugged me so hard I thought she'd crack a rib. "It's over," I told her. "He got 20 years, no parole." She pulled back, tears streaming down her face. "You saved my life." "We saved each other," I said. Emily got full custody. She sold the estate, it was in her name too, a detail Mark had overlooked in his arrogance, and used the money to start a foundation for victims of domestic abuse. She moved into a beautiful house near me in the city. I still practice law, but I'm different now. I don't just care about winning cases, I care about saving lives. I keep the wig in my closet, in a box, as a reminder. A reminder that sometimes the law isn't enough. Sometimes you have to walk into the fire to put it out. If you or someone you know is in a situation like Emily's, please do not suffer in silence. There is a way out. There are people who will fight for you. You are stronger than you think, and you are never, ever alone. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please share it. You never know who might need to hear it today to find their own courage. Stay safe and take care of each other.